Private plates. One of the execs stepped out, a woman I recognized from a LinkedIn profile Daniel had shown me. The other, tall, bald, eyes like marble, wasn't familiar. Daniel stiffened. That's not who I expected. Problem? Could be backup, or worse, an enforcer. We adjusted the plan. I slipped into the driver's seat of the decoy car, parked across the alley. Sunglasses at night. Hello. Bluetooth earpiece. When the two execs stepped outside 20 minutes later, I timed the intercept. Rides here. I called out. They didn't question it. They slid into the car dot as I pulled onto the service road. I saw Daniel slipping through. The rear gate. One hand on the drone controller, one on the relay device. 10 minutes passed. I circled blocks, made small talk, blamed traffic dot inside. The execs checked their phones. One made a quiet call. Package secured, he said. Extraction in T-minus 15. Then, clean sweep confirmed. No tails. I had to bite my tongue to stop from reacting. I dropped them at a marina. A speedboat waited. Engine humming. Two men met them with briefcases and satellite phones. As the exec stepped onto the dock, I killed the engine. A second later, Daniel's voice crackled through the earpiece. Got it. Zoe's voice followed, going live in 3, 2, 1. Then all hell broke loose. Police scanners exploded. The FBI moved in. Someone had tipped them. Maybe Zoe thought maybe Daniel himself. Either way, sirens howled. Helicopters roared overhead, and the marina lit up like a movie set. Daniel appeared beside me out of nowhere, pulled me from the car. We're compromised. Then why aren't they arresting us? Because we're the ones they need now. We ran back streets, sewers, old tunnels beneath the market. He guided us like he'd lived there for years. And when we emerged 2 hours later, covered in dirt and seawater, Zoe was waiting in a rental car. She tossed me a burner. You're trending, she said. The footage is everywhere. Full names, financial docs, everything. What about us? You? You're ghosts. For now. That night, we watched the news from a borrowed apartment 3 counties away. Massive leak uncovers decade of illegal surveillance, the anchor said. Private executives detained, dozens under investigation. Daniel looked at me. You okay? I nodded. Then whispered, Now we vanish. He smiled sadly. Now we start over. Part 5. The cost of truth. The leak changed everything. But not in the way we thought it would. Within 24 hours of Zoe pressing publish, the story had gone global. Every outlet, from underground blogs to primetime news, had a version. Headlines screamed about illegal surveillance, offshore corruption, massive data theft, and shadow ops buried under layers of bureaucracy. Daniel's face didn't appear. Anywhere. Mine did. A blurry security still from the marina. Me, behind the wheel. Expression blank. Eyes sharp. A woman hiding something. The media called me the driver. The FBI called me a civilian of interest. And the people Daniel exposed? They called me bait. We disappeared again. This time with Zoe's help. She had contacts in the journalism underground. Hackers, runners, safe house suppliers. People who didn't ask questions unless the answers were worth dying for. We ended up in a coastal cottage somewhere on the Carolina border. Off-season rental. No neighbors. Signal blockers in the walls. Daniel barely spoke for 2 days. When he did, he asked, Did we win? I didn't know how to answer. By the 3rd day. It was clear the fallout was only just beginning. 3 major companies collapsed overnight. 1 senator resigned. 2 were under federal investigation, but the real enemy, the one behind the money, the movement, the silence, still unnamed, still at large. The data we released was damning, yes, but it was only part of the machine. The Hydra had lost a few heads, but the body was still alive. Zoe visited once. She brought soup, clean burner phones, and a manila folder. In it. A photo of a girl, 16, blonde, freckles, braces. Her name's Ava, Zoe said. One of the victims? Her webcam was hijacked during a remote class. Footage was sold, traded. She had no idea. I felt sick. This is why you went dark? Zoe asked Daniel. He nodded. The software was supposed to be experimental, not monetized. Not like that. She tried to kill herself last year. No one said anything for a long time. Later that night, Daniel and I sat on the porch in silence. The ocean was black. Wingsharp. She reminds me of your niece, I said. He nodded. Yeah, me too. That was when I realized something had shifted in him. He wasn't just fighting for justice anymore. He was fighting because guilt had consumed him. He started making plans, quietly, carefully. He wrote a letter, long, handwritten, and burned it. After reading it once aloud, he built a second relay drone. He programmed Deadman's switches onto backup servers. I watched him disappear piece by piece into prep. One night I asked, "What are you planning?" He didn't answer right away. Then, something final. That scared me more than anything else, because I knew what Daniel looked like when he was desperate. I'd seen it once. The day his younger brother overdosed and Daniel blamed himself for not answering a call. That night, he drank until he couldn't stand, muttering, "It's my fault," like a prayer. This looked the same, but sharper, more surgical, more fatal. I tried to reason with him. You've done enough. You exposed the worst of it. You gave him a blueprint. But the blueprint isn't enough, he said. They're rebuilding already, quietly, using new names, new servers. There's still a core node, one hub. Then we find someone else to leak it. I'm not giving it to anyone else. That was when I knew. He didn't trust anyone, not even Zoe. This was personal now. And I was scared he wouldn't survive it. 2 days later, someone found us Dot. We heard it before we saw it. A car on gravel. Not fast, not loud. Deliberate. Zoe was. Inside, she ran up the porch, out of breath, pale. They know. The warehouse wasn't the end. She handed us another folder. Inside, printed messages from the dark web. Someone had offered a bounty. 2. Actually, .1 for Daniel, .1 for me. Daniel scanned the pages. These names, he muttered. Some of them were clients. They're turning on each other. Why now? I asked. Zoe swallowed hard. Because there's talk that you found the root node. What's that? The original server, the mother protocol, every contract, every client list, every backdoor. Daniel nodded slowly. It's not just talk. I have it. Zoe's eyes went wide. You didn't tell me? I couldn't. You'd become a target, just like Emily. I stood up. Then we destroy it, together. The final phase began. Daniel called it the burn plan. We built a schedule. A timing system. 32 minutes from upload to detonation. The server was hidden in a former radio tower deep in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Daniel had repurposed the tech months ago, not even telling me until now. We had one shot. Upload the node. Broadcast to every public ledger, court, journalist, and anonymous drop. Then physically destroy the system. No trace. No copy. No counter. The night before we left, Daniel held my hand in bed. I love you, he said quietly. If something goes wrong, no. I stopped him. We go together. We end this together. He kissed my forehead. You always were the brave one. We reached the tower before sunrise. No roads. Just frost, pine needles, and silence. Inside, Daniel powered up the terminal. The air HUMNED. Zoe was on comms from a safe location, watching the mirrored broadcast. Upload initiated. She said, "You've got 30 minutes." Daniel started. The upload. Then everything went wrong. A gunshot. Glass shattered behind us. Then another. I dove. Daniel grabbed the terminal. 3 men burst in, faces covered. Silent. Not feds. MERCS. Private contractors. 1 grabbed me. Daniel shouted down. Another aimed at the drive. Stop. Daniel yelled. But it was too late. They smashed the terminal. Daniel tackled one. A struggle. Fists. Blood. Then a shot. Daniel collapsed. Screams. Gunfire. Then dash silence. The men fled. Zoe's voice shouted over the comms. Emily, what happened? I crawled to Daniel. Blood on his shoulder. Breathing shallow, but alive. Barely. I grabbed the spare relay. Plugged it into the backup port. Time left. 2:31. I triggered the emergency. Transmitter. Upload resuming. Zoe's voice came through, shaking. Emily, you did it. The screen blinked green. Broadcast. Complete. Node copied. Distributed. Unstoppable. God, I carried Daniel out. He was bleeding, but smiling. You did it, he whispered. No, I said. We did. The final server exploded behind us. A cloud of black. And flame swallowed the sky. Gone. No more backups. No. More secrets. No more silence. Part 6. Ashes and aftermath. I drove through the mountain mist with one hand on the wheel and the other, gripping Daniel's blood-soaked shirt. His breathing was shallow, uneven, but he was alive. That was all I cared about. Every bump in the road made him groan. Every turn felt like a gamble. But I couldn't stop. Not here. Not now. Behind us, the mountains swallowed the smoke from the explosion. The server, the data, the nightmare, it was all burning away. Or so I hoped. I reached the emergency clinic one Daniel had told me about weeks ago, hidden off Route 64, a place that didn't ask questions if you paid in cash. A woman in scrubs opened the side door. The moment she saw me dragging Daniel's limp frame. Through here, she said, pulling us inside. Gunshot? Yes, I said breathlessly. Shoulder. Lost a lot of blood. But he's conscious barely. She waved over another nurse, and we got him onto a gurney. I stood back, helpless, watching his body disappear behind curtains in medical urgency. The next 12 hours blurred. I slept in a cracked vinyl chair. I drank cold coffee. I stared at blood on my hands and didn't bother wiping it off. When the nurse finally emerged and said, "He's stable," I didn't cry. I laughed out the kind of dry, broken laugh that comes when you're too exhausted to feel anything else. Daniel slept for most of the next day. When he finally opened his eyes, the first thing he whispered was, "Did it work?" I nodded. Broadcast. Confirmed. Coverage everywhere. They're calling it the data collapse. He closed his eyes again and smiled faintly. You saved me. He said we saved each other. While Daniel recovered, I kept a low profile. The media was in chaos. Investigations had opened in 7 countries. Military contractors were denying involvement. Politicians were resigning, some quietly, some under subpoenas. Zoe's drop had been mirrored thousands of times. Thought there was no putting the truth back in the box. But even with the truth out, the threats didn't vanish. They shifted, got quieter. More calculated. And somehow more personal. One night, while Daniel was sleeping, I found a note under our clinic room door. No envelope. No signature. Just one sentence. You can't kill what you can't see. The note didn't make sense at first. It was cryptic, sure, but not immediately threatening. Just vague, elusive. Still, it chilled me. Not because of what it said, but because of what it implied. Someone had been there, close, quiet, and they knew exactly where to find us. I burned the note that night. No photos, no scans, just fire. Then I changed all of our safe house protocols, disabled every burner, and started cycling new comms lines. Zoe didn't even argue. She just sent me a new list of verified names in neutral locations. We were ghosts again. Daniel was healing, but slowly. His shoulder was a mess, torn tissue, nerve damage. The bullet had missed anything fatal by a centimeter, but his arm would never be the same. He joked about it, called himself Cyber John Wick, but I could see it in his eyes. The cost had sunk in. There's something terrifying about survival when you've already accepted death. It leaves a strange silence inside, a quiet echo of everything you almost lost, and yet we were still here. In the weeks that followed, the world changed. A Senate hearing went public. Names were named. Massive CEOs took the stand, their faces pale under fluorescent courtroom lights. One of the whistleblowers, a kid no older than 22, broke down sobbing on live television, saying, "I didn't know what I was building." Daniel and I watched from a small rented room in Denver, using borrowed Wi-Fi and prepaid electricity. No one knew we were alive. Zoe kept it that way. Then, unexpectedly, A package arrived. No return address. No courier name. Just a small cardboard box on our doorstep one morning. Inside was a flash drive and a single. Photograph. Daniel. Me. Standing outside the mountain tower. Seconds before the explosion. Someone had followed us. Photographed us. And mailed proof. I looked at Daniel. His face was stone. I think we underestimated how many layers there were, he said. I whispered, what do we do now? He held the flash drive between two fingers like it was poison. We finished what we started. Part 7. The End of the Wire. The flash drive sat untouched on the table for hours. We stared at it like it might detonate. In a way, it already had. If someone had followed us into the woods into that moment, then we were no longer just survivors of a system. We were marked by it, watched, tracked, cataloged. Who would send this? I whispered. Daniel's voice was low. Someone who wants us to know they exist. They know we're alive. He nodded. They know everything. We booted up a quarantined laptop, disconnected from everything, shielded in a Faraday bag. No Wi-Fi. No Bluetooth. No port active except one. Daniel inserted the drive. It blinked red once. Then opened. Automatically. Just one file. A video. TIM. 2 weeks ago. The footage showed a room. Cold, clinical, gray walls. A man sat alone in a metal chair. Hands cuffed. Eyes bruised. I gasped. It was Everett, the same fixer who had recruited Daniel. The man who vanished the second our leak went live. Now he was here. Detained. Questioned. But not by police. No insignias. No uniforms. Only voices behind the comm. Controlled. Where's the rest of the archive? One asked. I told you, I don't know. You do. And you're going to help us find it. Or we'll bury you like we buried the node. Daniel leaned forward. They didn't believe the node was destroyed. No, I said. They think there's more. We shut off the laptop. No trace. No file saved. Just adrenaline racing through my blood like a siren. They're looking for the backups, Daniel said. They don't believe it ended in that fire. I swallowed. Do we have backups? Daniel paused. Then answered. One. My mouth went dry. Where? In the last place they'd look, he said. With the last person they'd suspect. We flew to Prague the next morning. New names. New papers. No digital footprint. The contact's name was Nadia, an archivist, former intelligence analyst. Now running a private cryptography vault hidden beneath an abandoned bank in the city's old district. Daniel had met her years ago. Trusted her more than anyone. She's the reason I survived the first leak attempt, he told me on the plane. If she hadn't re-encrypted my files, Echo Prime would have wiped me clean. When we arrived, Nadia was waiting in a worn leather coat, eyes behind mirrored lenses. You brought the storm with you, she said. We need shelter, Daniel replied. She nodded. Then let's move fast. The weather's turning. We weren't talking about the sky. Nadia's vault wasn't what I expected. It wasn't sleek or futuristic. It was dusty, dimly lit, with exposed copper pipes running along the ceiling and stacks of analog files shelved like books. The air smelled like old ink and static electricity. But when she opened the back chamber, I understood. The true vault was below. A reinforced steel door concealed a staircase that spiraled into a stone cellar. She used her retina and a code known only to her and Daniel to unlock it. Down below. Racks of servers humming quietly, each shielded and partitioned. This, she said, is the last archive you'll ever need. No one touches this without burning half the globe. Daniel moved toward a server in the corner. His fingers hesitated before flipping the switch. Is it still intact? I asked. He powered it up. A soft tone rang out, then lights blinked green. Yes. He said, it's all here. We spent the next 18 hours verifying the data, not just names and contracts. This time, the archive held conversations, encrypted voice logs, call records, conference chats between executives, enforcers offshore, brokers, even mid-level agents talking about new compliance procedures, code for wiping traces and silencing internal dissent. But most damning of all was a file labeled Project Hydra Contingency Stack. It wasn't about surveillance anymore. It was about control. Economic, social, political. They hadn't just built an illegal system. They had contingency plans for rebuilding it, even faster. And worse, they were recruiting. New tech, younger analysts, fresh blood who didn't question where the funding came from. This wasn't a system, I said, staring at the screen. It was a culture, Daniel nodded, and it still breathes. We had a choice: release it all again and put everyone we cared about in danger, or bury it forever and let the world believe the fire in the mountains was the end. I looked at Daniel. He looked at me. We started this together, I said. We ended together. Nadia agreed to help. She would coordinate the second drop through a ring of independent vaults across 6 countries. We'd use layered timing, upload shadows, staggered releases. But first, we had to return, not to the U.S. to the source. 3 days later, we crossed into Geneva using black passports and the names of dead clients from Echo Prime's own registry. We wore masks, hoods, no electronics. In the heart of the city, in a building that looked like a fintech startup, was the final remnant of Hydra's inner circle, a data command center known as the Glass Room. It was said to be clean, no leaks, no devices. Until Daniel planted one. Inside, I followed his lead. He spoke in quiet, firm tones. 2 visitors. Interested in portfolio transfers? The receptionist smiled. This way, please. We were guided into a hallway. Then a second door. The moment it shut, Daniel leaned in and whispered, now. I pulled the device from my coat, a flat, gray square. The pulse hit the room like a whisper. Screens blinked. Cameras dropped. We were in. Daniel moved fast, while the signal jammed the security grid. He plugged into the central console. Nadia's virus went to work. Silent, ruthless. Surgical. It didn't just copy data. It exposed it. Across the world. Screens began to flicker. In courtrooms, in newsrooms, on phones, in inboxes. Every single email, ledger, order, conversation, streamed in real time. They couldn't stop it. They couldn't spin it. Hydra was bleeding in public. And the world was watching. Security burst into the room too late. Daniel pulled me behind him, shielding me as the head officer stormed forward. You just signed your death warrants, the man growled. Daniel didn't flinch. So did you, 10 years ago, when you sold your name to a ghost network. Alarms screamed, doors slammed. But the virus had already completed its mission. We ran. Out the back, through a maintenance stairwell, into a delivery that Nadia had arranged. She met us at the drop site. It was done. Back in Prague, we watched the collapse in silence. Senators detained. Companies stripped of funding. Dozens arrested. Anonymous took credit. Journalists broke down on live streams. Former employees came forward, confessing, crying. No one could deny it anymore. The system had been real, and it had fallen. Daniel stood at the balcony that night. Rain on his face. He looked tired, but free. You think they'll come back? I asked. He shrugged. Maybe, but they'll never build it the same. I took his hand. What now? He looked at me. You write the story? Not me. You. Months later, I published the memoir. Not about Daniel. About truth. About silence. About the slow corrosion of complicity. It became a warning. And a prayer. At readings, people asked, was it real? I always said the same thing. Too real. Daniel and I live quietly now. Coastal village. No phones. No accounts. Just paperbacks and long walks. But sometimes in the corner of the cafe, I still see faces watching. Just in case. Because even when the wire's gone, you still feel it buzz beneath your skin.